Hi, I'm Ryan Macklin, and I'm the creator of this crazy little thing called Backstory Cards. And with me, I've got two fantastic humans that are going to do a totally very rapid, real quick character setup and entire thing using Tim Rodriguez's OmegaZone mixed in with the backstory cards that we have right now on Kickstarter. Um, Friend humans, introduce yourself. Corey
Corey Bryn, I'm from Kansas.
and Mark.
I'm Mark. I live in Austin, Texas.
Excellent. So you guys have been following the backstory thing a bit and have checked out OmegaZone. So for those at home who don't know what OmegaZone is, real quick, it is sort of the elevator pitch that isn't official at all. It's basically Gamma World in Fate Accelerated, using cards to figure out what you are and all that fun stuff. So we're going to go ahead. The three of us are going to make characters. We're going to intertwine them. We're going to then use backstory, or you use backstory cards to intertwine them, and then bam, we'll be done afterwards. I will stick around and answer questions via the Q&A app. Um, so, but let's go ahead and start here. We'll start with Mark. We're going to draw, as OmegaZone tells us, we will go ahead and draw two character definition cards and one mutation, which provides you with various approaches and stunts. Really, for this purpose, provides you with kind of a neat little character concept sort of thing. Okay, and so for you, your two character concepts are going to be, first one is, you are an amplitude demon. Amplitude demons get +2 to cleverly create advantage when using their sense of radio waves. When their sense of radio waves is useful.
Excellent.
So, an amplitude. There's my camera. Excellent. So that is the first thing you are, and then you are also a mundane. So you're a mundane amplitude demon. You +2 to cleverly create advantage when other methods have tried and failed. So, and your mutation, because let's just pile it on this mundane person here. Your mutation is psychic trickery. Get +2 to cleverly create advantage when using your psychic power to confuse opponents. You're very about being clever in this one.
Fantastic.
All right, so that's you. You are the mundane amplitude demon with psychic trickery. All right, so that's a concept there. Then we're gonna make ones for Corey and myself, and we're gonna quickly figure out what our deal is, enough so that we can then use backstory cards to figure out what our collective deal is. All right, so Corey, now
Great.
you're done. Let's do this.
Let's do it.
All right, let's drop a lot of cards on the ground. That sounds like all right. So, you are an atomic construct. Once per session, atomic constructs can recall details about technology from the world before.
Gotcha.
You are one half atomic construct and one half Felinid. Once per session, Felinids may spend a fate point to invoke a boost without removing it from the table. So, half cat person, half atomic construct. Who can or has psychic teleportation. Spend a fate point to instantly move up to 2 zones.
Nice.
So you are an atomic felinid construct psychic teleportation thing. All right. And for mine, we'll spread here. 1, 2, and 3. All right. I am a jelly blob that gets +2 to carefully create advantage when their lack of well-defined anatomy comes into play. Hole dweller get +2 to carefully defend on when on natural soil. With hyperactive metabolism, once per session, it can immediately clear my lowest two stress boxes. So that's me. So I'm a jelly blob hold dweller with hypermetabolism. So that's us in OmegaZone. All right. So we need to come up with just enough character concept to sort of to get this going. So if either of you have an idea, and again, sort of think this is very much not like post radioactive, high adventure, wacky space. I mean, if you look at the art kind of tells you what sort of game we're playing. Does anybody have any idea of what you are in this world, in this wackiness? Mark's got something. I heard.
I feel like I'm the worst amplitude demon. I'm the saddest, most pathetic of all amplitude demons. My name is like Larry. Like I don't even have a cool amplitude demon name. So he's like the high concept would be the worst amplitude demon.
The worst amplitude demon. Okay, so that's your high concept is the worst amplitude demon. Do you think you've got a trouble?
I don't know, that could also be a trouble.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, why don't we get back to that? You've got a core. You're the worst amplitude demon. Sort of think about whatever you're doing here in OmegaZone, since we didn't come up with a campaign frame or anything. Corey, you got an idea here?
Yeah, I got an idea. I think I'm gonna go with curiosity killed the cat. Somehow my feeling it got half blown apart. Came an atomic construct. What was his other one? Psychic teleportation. But what's
Is this sort of like one of those things where you're so you were like a cat person blown up, and then did you just wake up and were suddenly like half atomic?
Yeah, I think the curiosity killed the cat. He was probably walking around on landmines for fun.
Okay, so that sounds like a trouble.
Yeah, that was his trouble. Now he's got his atomic construct part of him though too. So maybe now he's full of himself since he's half atomic construct.
No, just like way overconfident, like whatever.
Yeah, totally. He's only used one of his 9 lives.
I got 8 more. It's probably a good. All right, cool. So, all right, so let's see. So we have a really cocky atomic half cat. We have the worst amplitude demon.
I love that.
Yeah, and so I'll think about myself for a second. So Jelly Blob, Hole Dweller. I mean, I'm seeing this like Jelly Blob thing, and I'm feeling like maybe
I puked you up.
I'm kind of feeling like, what do you call it? Like in a landmine filled with just like old candy that eventually became sentient.
Sentient candy.
I'm sentient candy. You know what? I'm a smarty.
Like a Sour Patch Kid, but
I just sort of like I'm like an amalgamation of all of those, but I really like to identify with how smart I am because I have a Smarty wrapper embedded in me somewhere. But yeah, and because of that, that's why I've got this hyperactive metabolism, because I just can eat myself. Consume myself for energy. And I'm a hole dweller, except for me, the natural ground and hole is more landfill than it is natural earth.
The candy hole.
So yeah, I'm sentient candy.
nice.
And so, but I need a good name, Jeff.
The confectioneer.
I think I'm gonna go with something simple, like I don't know, but I would kind of step on Larry too much, so I'm gonna go with.
I can change. I'm not committed.
No, You don't change for anyone. No one has to make you change. You are as good of an amplitude demon.
I'm the worst.
You're kind of a crappy amplitude demon, but I believe in you. Yes. I think I'm Jelly Baby.
Jelly Baby.
There we go. I am Jelly Baby, Lord of Jellyland, as far as I'm concerned. And so, like, I think my high concept is that I am sentient massive candy. And my trouble is that I have no connection whatsoever with reality. I mean, it's like I have a constant sugar high. I am a constant sugar high. So that's my deal, and we have here the atomic half cat that has got 8 more lives to go. So whatever. And we have the Larry, the worst amplitude demon.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we have enough of a character to kind of throw us into like kind of coming up with like an adventure we did in OmegaZone, and we'll use that to generate the information that we'll use to start off our backstory setup. So, okay, so with that, we've got characters now. I'm going to go back to you, Mark, on this. There was something happened not too long ago in OmegaZone that perhaps the other 2 of us could have been involved in, but it's sort of like your adventure, a la, Spirit of the Century, Fate Core, etc. What was your adventure in OmegaZone? What was your crisis or thing, what you wanted to deal with?
Let's go with the fact that I was maybe the amplitude demons are a frat-like body of evil, and since I'm so terrible, I had to sort of survive my hazing.
Okay.
And when amplitude demons haze, they don't mess around.
All right. So your bit is that you had to survive your hazing.
Yeah, and that can create earthquakes, which the area is prone to begin with.
Oh, just a light thing. All right. Okay, so if we see if it works out, hopefully you guys see the little Google Doc thing I made. I don't know if you guys can see it. I don't know if the internet can see it either. Maybe someone who's on Twitter will tell me if they can see it. Hopefully. Okay. Aha, yes, excellent. Looks like. All right, so it is. Yeah, if you go to the Google Drive icon, it should be able to pull up from there the shared. Let's see here. But now we have an event. So in backstory cards, we have individuals, groups, places, and events as far as things that aren't player characters, things that are about the world. We call the setting grid. So I'm going to change one of these events to be
Rush Week.
For the hazing. Okay, so, and let's get a little bit here. Do you have like an older brother or sister or somebody who just really...
Well, yeah, I was a legacy, right? Like, my dad was in the group. That's why I had to be in, even though I'm the worst amplitude demon.
All right, so Larry's dad, I think, is going to be one of our individuals. That might come up in our backstory. So Larry's dad, the hazing itself is an event. Yeah, I think maybe we have a place here in the totally unstable proving grounds.
Yes.
All right, so we've got a little bit now from that to fill in, and now next up. So Corey, what's your adventure?
I think I'm gonna go with my atomic cat. He's a catnip addict, so he was on a mission to get some catnip.
Okay. So
Catnip mission.
All right. So basically, you're running and getting drugs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
catnip. It's not a.
So
They
so
sell it at Walmart.
okay, well, hang on. Walmart's totally a place. Uh, the Mart of Wall. Okay, so we've got the Mart of Wall. Okay, which means that I think we have our first group here. Um, uh, so, so let's talk about like, um, you're trying to get catnip, and you're trying to go to the Mart of Wall, which sounds like this Odysseus level trek to get somewhere.
Yeah, it's like the last mart of wall on the world on the planet.
And so I'm gonna say that because of that, they're totally like um, highway cyber thugs that you probably totally could have encountered during that.
I would
Uh,
agree, definitely.
and also, and perhaps, and another one, uh, the prophet. For some reason, I feel like there's a prophet in your story,
AKA Larry's uncle.
aka. So we've got here. So we've got all right. So we've got so we have now six things. We've got from Larry's sort of story. We've got his dad and the totally unstable proving grounds and the event of being amped up, um, the hazing itself. And then we have highway cyber thugs, the Mart of Wall, and the Prophet. So we've got a little bit from that. So we're going to go ahead and throw me in, and I'm going to come up with sort of a story here, knowing that I want to fill in some of these holes as well. So let's see. I think that I have a third place in that um, uh, we have the mega land because of course there's a mega landfill. Um, that's this thing. It's the Omega landfill, of course. All right, and so I think that um, because I keep eating myself, I of course have to keep finding more candy. Otherwise, I will starve and become nothing. Um, but I'm also on a constant sugar high. Let's see. I'm like this crazy earth dweller. Um, I think I think my story. Um, um, there's just so many different. I fell in love with what I thought was sentient popcorn. That's what I'm gonna go with.
It goes so well together.
It does. It's just we're a match made in theater heaven.
You don't just do the one
Um,
handful and the other handful, just all there.
I'm thinking about like let's go down to the lobby sort of song with like the candy and everything that walks. That's sort of just what just came to mind. Um, and so, but of course, I have to do this grand thing to prove my love to, no, it's popcorns. It's multiple, my love to them. And so, in order to do that, I am going to battle for their affection um, uh, against a group event. Um, let's see. Now I'm trying to think of like an event that I could kind of put in for this. Oh, I guess the grand uh, theater battle. Hundreds died that day. Um, and then health food crazies is what I'm going to call the other group. That is effectively my nemesis and wants to do things like exterminate me. I've been watching a lot of Parks and Rec lately, and so Rob Lowe's character is kind of in my mind, and so I just think it's like it is hundreds of just that person,
Crossfitters.
hundreds of slash Rob Lowell, um, and Yeah, I think that's probably because I've now put in three things. So yeah, I'm just fighting a bunch of health food crazies in order to prove myself slash defend my existence slash defend my love's existence. Because it's Omega Zone, that's just Wednesday. And so we have what happened last week. Last week, Proving Ground and massive battle royale in the theater, and having to go get some catnip at the Mart of Wall. So with all of that, I think we can go ahead and we kind of have a bit of we kind of understand our characters a little bit, just enough to get this going, um, and we kind of have a sense of who the other characters are. So now I'm going to go ahead and use the backstory system to interconnect our characters. So now we're going to shuffle, and this is almost every card in this deck is this is like one like micro iteration. Older than what's in the first update for those people who have back or will backstory cards.
Oh, I didn't know.
So the first card is all right. So it is you and PC used to spend time together at place. What mementos do you keep from that time in your lives? Okay. So if you look here, I think you can probably see that. Maybe you could if I did this. Okay. So yeah. So this card here has some prompts. Has a tag that I think might be outdated. Yeah, it has a prompt here, PC in place, and now we're going to go ahead and fill in those prompts, and then I'll explain the rest of the things on the card as we go. So you and PC, and I'm going to play this on myself. I'm going to go and start, and then I'll go and deal out for other people. So me and PC, and so now I'm going to go ahead and draw a card that tells me which one. As you see, it's sort of highlighted here as like as a prompt, which means I have to fill it in. So I draw another card, and it has a couple arrows that are pointing toward the left. So I'm going to go around. I'm going to assume that because of the way that the Google has the face at the bottom, that Corey is to my right, Mark's to my left, which makes Corey to my right. So if I go around, that means that it's me and Corey's character. Does Corey's character have a name?
Bobcat Jones.
Bobcat Jones. Okay, so I gave myself a name and totally forgot, didn't I?
It was we did. It was Jellyhead.
Jelly Baby. That's right. Yeah. Jelly Babe. I'm an adult now. So Jelly Babe and Bobcat Smith.
Bobcat Jones.
Bobcat Jones. Okay. Jelly Babe and Bobcat Jones used to spend some time together at Place. Well, okay. So now I'm going to draw because Place is also highlighted there. And so I'm going to draw another card, and that card has a number at the bottom between 1 and 3. It's sort of a, you can use a die roll for this, but if you got nothing else, or just this is here for convenience. This says place number 1. We have place number 1 is the totally unstable proving grounds. Okay, so all right. So Jelly Babe and Bobcat Jones used to spend time together at the totally unstable proving grounds. What mementos do you keep from that time in your lives? All right, so this is just sort of like this is the sort of prompt that just establishes a little bit of character interconnection. It's not a prompt that says, "Hey, you're both totally awesome," or "Hey, you both have complicated lives." Or hey, you both hate each other. It just sort of is a thing that this happens, sort of establishes a bond. So we did that. What memento do we have of that time when we used to totally hang out at the totally unstable proving grounds?
Let's see.
And now for this, I could even, because it's a thing, because it's talking about a memento, I could actually go ahead and draw from the random gear deck in OmegaZone. I'm kind of tempted to.
I'll go with that because.
Right. So that means we're gonna have to figure out how we got this. So All right. So we got your armamento is a let me put this back on me. Krinian power source. Uh, say what you will about the Kreen, they made the best batteries. So it's some sort of strange space age kind of battery thing. That's our memento. How did we get that though? And um, so I think that maybe um, maybe you were out of power,
Yeah,
and
yeah, for
I
my
happened
suit.
to
Yeah.
stumble across an alien and fought it for its battery.
Yeah, maybe I was dragging along and you found me and you had a battery.
I beat up this alien, took its battery, it didn't fit, so I found another battery, but I kept this battery as a sign of randomly spawned friendship.
Exactly. Sounds good.
So there we go. I have a battery, and you have the continuing power that you have.
My power issues.
Um, all right, so we have a bit of a connection there. That means that we knew each other at this totally unstable proving ground, which now has aliens in it at times. So we kind of know a little bit more about the world and things that might go on, and we know that we kind of know each other from this point. So now, all right. So next up, I'm going to go to Mark, and I'm going to draw yours, Mark, and yours is says, all right. So here's the prompt, which is directly or not, you're the reason the group got involved with the event, and they hold a grudge against you for it. What happened? Now this is a solo prompt, which means that it doesn't involve another player character. It involves just two world events, and we're going to go ahead and figure out what those world events are. So, first one, we're going to see which group, and also while I'm at it, I'm going to go ahead and totally star that we use totally unproven grounds. All right, so the group is Group 1, Highway Cyber Thugs. So you're the reason that Highway Cyber Thugs got involved in. I'm going to draw another card, and it is event number 1, the hazing. So directly or not, you're the reason that the Highway Cyber Thugs got involved with the hazing, and they hold a grudge against you for it. What happened?
Um, I knew I wasn't going to make it through because I'm literally the worst, just awful. And so I called them in to help. I promised them things that were not there, which caused them to go into conflict with the Dude Bros that are part of the Amplitude Demon sort of host. And so now they have an ongoing war with the Amplitude Demons.
I'm kind of tempted to make them like
The Dude Bros.
yeah, amp bros.
Yeah. They've
Uh,
got
all right,
hats.
so that kind of makes them like a group and and an event, kind of a location, and also your dad being like the king of them or whatever. So they're going to come up a lot, I think, in these various backstory prompts, or they could. Okay, and so yeah, so they hold a grudge because you promised a lot, and they instead have this blood feud.
Right.
What it sounds like.
Yep.
That's probably not good for you.
King Universe.
All right. So okay. So next up, we're gonna draw for Bobcat Jones, right?
Yes.
So we got Bobcat Jones. Okay. The next one. Okay. So this is going to be a drama prompt, and that means that it's going to connect two people together, not in a way that's like, hey, you're both awesome or hey, you hate each other, but some sort of complicated backstory. We'll see if we like the sort of drama prompt. The reason these tags exist is so that you can kind of quickly look at a card and be like, yeah, I don't want that kind. We've got too many of that kind before, or our game isn't about this, or stuff like that. But I'll go ahead and read the prompt first, which I can do by looking at the screen. So whenever someone mentions event, you and PC get quiet. What happened that you two don't want others to know about, and why do you keep it secret? This is one that also came up in our extra secret service prompt, or extra secret service demo that we have on YouTube right now. So whenever someone mentions event, now we're going to draw for the event, and the event is um, the Grand Theater Battle, where hundreds died that day. Okay. Now let's see here. Now the one that I have one going to the right. So I think to the right would then be um, would also be Larry. So we have here whenever someone mentions the Grand Theater Battle, you and Larry get quiet. What happened that you two don't want others to know about, and why do you keep it secret? That sound like a prompt that would be fun for you? That sound like something that our game would be about?
I think it could work.
Okay, cool. Then we'll totally keep it. All right. So you guys get to work together on this. Since it is about both your characters. Because you don't want to make stuff up the other person doesn't like or whatever. But it is very much in your court, or Corey, because it's your character, your prompt. What's an idea?
Well, idea I had was amplitude demon. You know, he would, even though he's the worst, he still might want to use his sound somewhere. Is there maybe a reason he'd want to be at the theater with his sound?
Sure. I mean, when you're the worst amplitude demon, you have to try and prove yourself constantly.
And something had to go wrong that we're embarrassed about. Were you that bad?
Well, I feel like, I mean, the whole point of the battle, right, was for Jelly Babe to prove his love to the popcorn, right?
Yeah.
But we must have caused some sort of tragedy between my amplitude and your atomicness that that made that battle maybe not turn out as well, and maybe we're the only ones that know it was our fault.
Maybe we made all the popcorn like somehow go insane and turn into zombies.
I feel like it was bad, whatever it was.
Yeah.
We could totally leave it unspecified. We just call it that tragedy.
Okay, yeah, that tragedy.
Okay, so you guys are sort of secretly the reason that hundreds died that day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys just don't like to talk about it. In spite of the fact that Jelly Babe talks all the time about how awesome it was during then.
Turned out better for some than others.
Yeah, I mean, if you see, I was wielding like 7 axes.
I almost lost another life.
Yeah. Nice. So we've got one round now. We know a little bit of what's gone on with our characters. For instance, we actually know a little bit more about that Grand Theater Battle that was at first just like I threw that as a thing that happened because I needed an idea, and now we have a little bit more context to it. We tied the highway cyber thugs we made up in the Mart of Wall bit with the hazing itself. We've tied the unstable proving grounds that Mark came up with for his character with the 2 characters that aren't his. So we've kind of like tied together a bunch of stuff. Now, backstory card sort of thing, you do 2 rounds. You can do 3 if you really want to, but it kind of gets like your answers will start to kind of get tired and constrained. At that point, you should start playing the game. So we're going to go ahead and do one more round. Do you guys have any questions before we jump into the next bit?
Nope.
Nope.
Cool. Sweet. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and do the next thing, and the next thing is all right. So it is a solo for me, and since I didn't do a solo last time, I'm okay with doing this one here. You, an individual, have a rather tempestuous on-again, off-again relationship. Which is it right now, and what makes it so turbulent? So, this one, I drew. What I did was I drew a 3, and we don't have anything listed right now for an individual 3. So, in that case, you could decide if you want to redraw. You could, or sort of take a moment to figure out like what would be a good individual to have an on-again, off-again relationship with. And I kind of feel like mentioning. So we've got like the popcorn that like died or went bad somehow was also possibly like the love of my life. Um, and I'm just gonna say that I need a good name for a sentient hive mind popcorn.
Hmm.
Redenbacher.
I think it's a little too. At some point, shut down because of the copyright violation. But Red, however, is totally innocent. So Red is yeah. The other one I was going to go with was the secret pop, and I knew that was just going to be horrible.
The secret.
So Red, parentheses, the sentient pop, hive mind. Sometime. All right, so me and Red have a tempestuous on again, off again relationship. What is it right now, and what makes it so turbulent? Um, so I think right now, um, we're on again because it's very easy to suddenly be off again and for that to sort of cause chaos. Um, and sort of being on again means that like Jelly Babe would have something to lose at a moment's notice as opposed to something to gain at a moment's notice. So thematically, the on again is kind of neat. And what makes it so turbulent? I think playing with what we came up with were like the Grand Theater battle and like the sound that sort of just changed things. What makes it turbulent is um, I think the power of rock. Like just completely changes personality whenever like rock music is played. And I haven't been able to figure out what the formula is for that. But like, we've for the last 48 hours, we have not had any music happen. And so we've been okay. And so I think that's the deal. And sometimes if she hears the wrong music, she destroys, buildings, whatever. I have a very horrible relationship, to be honest, but I love Red, and sometimes Red loves Jelly Babe. So, okay, so that's my setup here. We've kind of now like tied um, my answer, then sort of tied it to some other things. So it's not just the prompts that tie things together. You can also use your answers, knowing where things are going to go. Um, now, next up, we're going to go with. Now we'll go the other direction. We'll go with Corey. Corey. All right. So this one here is an adversarial prompt. It would actually pit two characters together. Let's see how it fits for size, and if we think that maybe our game wouldn't be about that, we'll go ahead and ditch it.
Okay.
So it says, you had an ulterior motive at event, NPC found out. What did you offer to keep them quiet, and did they agree to? And it can also sort of be a dramatic one, too, depending on how it goes. So at event number 2 is also the Grand Theater battle. So let's see. So at the Grand Theater battle, you had an ulterior motive and a PC found out. I think there's a lot going on at the Grand Theater battle, so I'm actually going to skip that, and I'm going to draw a different one, and I drew number 3. We don't have an event for number 3 yet. So let's figure out what event might have happened and what PC would have been involved. And so here, when I drew for the PC, the thing I got was any, which means it's totally your choice what PC would be involved here. So you had an ulterior motive at an event we haven't defined, and the PC of your choice found out. Do you feel like you've got something here, or do we want to draw another prompt that isn't like adversarial in nature?
That's another one.
Yeah, I think you froze that from.
Oh, I'd like to draw another one.
All right, draw another one. Right on. Cool. So this one is also an adversarial one. Here we go. Here is another one. and let's see how this ends up working out for you. This is a co-op one, which means that it's basically two PCs who are like their stories together make them more awesome. Um, and PC bailed you out during event. What awesome thing did they do that surprised you? So let's pick the PC here. Okay, so this one is the up arrow. When it's an up arrow and it's an odd number of people, you get to choose like the two people it would be closest to. So in a 3-player game, it's really just you get to decide which of us bailed you out during event number 3, which we still haven't figured out what that is.
Uh-oh, we lost him.
Did we lose him? Oh,
Yeah.
Let's see if we can get him back. Yeah, he was having some. Yeah. Hopefully we can get him back. I will send him another invite. All right. So, all right. Well, while we're hopefully getting him back, do you have any questions or thoughts or anything?
No, not at all. I think that, thoughts I do have, actually. I play with a group that is not, pretty much their only roleplay experience is with me, and we've played a lot of less story-driven games historically, and I think that these are going to, like, we're actually starting a new Fate game. We kind of came up with sort of a rough outline for it last week, and when we play either this evening or next week, I'm going to use these to help build their characters. I think it's really good for people that aren't super used to this.
Definitely, in that case, definitely take it slow. You might even just want to do like one round and then maybe space it out where, like because you can use these to introduce flashbacks as well. So you could space it out. You can think like the very like sort of improv nature elements end up tripping people up. Definitely space out. If it helps, you can also draw the cards and then decide which ones to fill in. There's a lot of different ways you can use this, sort of scaling it toward. Oh, it looks like we have. Oh.
Hello?
All right, you're back.
Yeah, I got disconnected somehow.
No worries. So let's see. All right. So we have here. So the prompt we have here. To reiterate here, it's a co-op prompt. So it is basically it's you talking about how awesome somebody else is and how awesome you guys are together. It is PC bailed you out during event. What awesome thing did they do that surprised you? And the event we drew was number 3. And the PC that we drew was any of us. Now I'm going to redraw something other than number 3. We're going to pretend that we only care about 2 events in this world. Like there's different ways you can use there's different ways you can use backstory cards. You can limit how many of a given entry so that you have more focus, or so you have more variety by extending them. Okay, PC bailed you out during number 1, the hazing. What awesome thing did they do that surprised you? Now, you can pick which PC because you've got an arrow, or if you want to be constrained, you could draw another card.
Another card to pick somebody? Or...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Or if you got an idea for one of us, you can jump right in because the card that you got initially before you dropped off.
I got you helping me out with the battery at that event. So maybe I think I'll go with Amplitude Demon on
All
that.
right. So during his own hazing, he did something. He bailed you out. And what awesome thing did Larry do that surprised you?
We have. I must have had a run in with the. What were they called? Not the biker gang, the highway gang.
There's the highway cyber thugs.
Were they at that event?
Yeah. And
Okay.
the other ones we have are the health food crazies and the amp bros. And the amp bros are cool too. And the highway cyber thugs and the amp bros are at the event fighting.
Okay. He saved me from an amp bro.
Okay. All right. So how did he save you from an Ampro? And what I like is that you probably are even in more hot water with your own kind. Because you're fighting one of your own people instead of one of the highway thugs.
I don't care about him. I got 8 more lives.
Right. So tell us how Larry surprised you, and what's Larry's psychic thing again?
Psychic trickery.
Oh,
They use trickery.
Maybe he psychically tricked somebody into thinking he was actually good at being an amplitude demon.
It's not a great amplitude demon power.
How does that sound? How does that sound that you? I mean, how does that sound like the idea of like psychically tricking somebody? Did you discover it there, maybe?
Maybe I discovered that I could use it for more than what I'd ever used it for in the past. Maybe it had been parlor tricks previous to that, but through lots of effort, I was able to create some sort of psychic trickery that saved his life.
Maybe you're working on honing your psychic trickery to trick your entire family into thinking you're the greatest amplitude demon.
Yeah. So I had surprising potential with my trickery that
Make up for the
that saved him.
potential elsewhere.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we have this thing here where you're able to you've used your trickery somehow in a way that that surprised Bobcat Jones.
Yeah, I was floored.
And so we have a sense here where like, sure, you're the worst amplitude demon, but Bobcat knows that you're actually awesome.
Right.
Whether you believe you're awesome or not could, of course, be some sort of like little bit of drama, like, I'm not all that, man. You're like, did you see what you did to that dragon? Like, whatever. That sort of like constant, sort of back and forth bit. So I think we've got some characters set up. We have some setting going on. We have some sort of directions and things. We didn't involve. There were a bunch of stuff we didn't involve. That is totally fine. The backstory system never hits on everything unless you super tightly constrain it. Like, we still don't know who this prophet is. We know that the Mart of Woe is there is probably a place that we'll end up going in our adventures, but is like that's a future thing rather than an elaborate backstory element. We know that the Ampros are important only because of the amped up and the hazing and in Larry's backstory, but we didn't directly confront them. There are these health food crazies that the GM would have in their pocket for any time that they just need to alone, health food crazies come and attack you. The GM still has that as a tool, even though we don't have a super detailed history about them. So we've got a bunch of stuff here that the GM can use. Some of that has connections with us. Other bits have future potential. But that's kind of just in 45 minutes. We went from having we'll use OmegaZone and backstory cards into having the beginning of a campaign frame. So you guys have any questions or thoughts as we wrap this up?
I think the cards are great. The story cards. I think it's going to add a lot to my Fate games.
Yeah, I agree.
It's a lot of fun too. It's just fun to be able to. It kind of gives you cues on what you need to think about instead of just trying to think of everything yourself.
Yeah, I made these because I'm really good at coming up with questions, but I was really good at coming up with questions years ago, and then I just found I came up with the same questions over and over again at conventions because it was easy, and I wasn't really surprised anymore. So I use this now to kind of create stuff that surprises me as a GM, and it kind of gets my fun meter kind of going up a little bit too.
I think they're great.
I think they'll help eliminate a lot of GM fatigue too, especially where if you're in a group where you're always the GM, and again you're always having to come up with all of the questions and all of the answers or really prompt people along. I think these cards are going to help. They're going to help me immensely to eliminate GM fatigue. And
I think it also gets people that aren't usually as such involved with coming up with the story themselves. It kind of forces your hand and makes you participate.
So I'm now going to see. So I don't have any. There aren't any questions for the Q&A. I will stick around for a few minutes for that. You guys should, go forth and be free and enjoy your Sundays. So I thank you guys very much for showing up and for doing this experiment, because I actually had not tested it with OmegaZone yet. So this was like we'll see what happens. It probably will work because it's like everything else. But I think Tim's going to do another one. I don't know when. I know he's scheduling it for one of the weekends I'm not around, because I've got Go Play Northwest next weekend and dropped a bunch of cards, and PaizoCon the weekend after. So I know he's going to do one that's in a different setting and in a different system. I want to do one toward the end of the campaign when I've got some time, that is horror oriented and not using fate. Just kind of show that it's not just a fate tool. In fact, like what we could have done if we wanted to spend a few more minutes, and I don't think we need to, but we could have come up with those like other aspects of our characters based on the stuff that we came up with in our setting. Like it could be, people or relationships or random talents or anything like what we came up with was for all sorts of potential aspects.
Like.
But yeah, so I will. So yeah, I'll stick around. You guys, please enjoy your Sundays, and thank you very, very much for this.
Thank you. My pleasure. It was
a lot of fun.
Sweet. For you at home, OmegaZone is awesome.
It is.
I'm waiting on my copy. It's in the mail.
Cool.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks a lot. We'll see you.
All right, and so if you guys have any questions, I will repost the link where the link is. Yeah, let me up the event. If you I will stick around for a few minutes, and I'll figure out some way to fill that air. So we at this point have hit the. I'll try to figure out. Let's find it. Hey, there are. Let's see, right now we're at. Refreshing things. We're at 491 backers and $7,724 toward it. Sweet. We need to go into details about what the expansion 1 that we've announced is. We have succeeded faster than we expected to, and so later today, I think, is when Tim will have an update. Either that or on Monday, when Tim will have an update regarding the details of that. But we're looking at the fact that backstory cards right now there are 49. Yeah, there are 49 cards. A small number of blanks that you can write your own cards in, and along with that, so the 49 prompt cards. There are 2 instructions back to back to kind of tell you the basics of how the game will work, and it's got some aid cards to give you some quick advice, some card diagrams. They're kind of useful, like aids for like passing around to players for knowing whose turn it is, and that's what the deck is. So it's a nice 55 card. It's it's compact. It's the sort of thing that you can just throw into your gaming bag. And whatnot. If you back, the very first update has the pre-production alpha, which has all of the prompts, the instructions, um, everything like that, and you can check it out. You can print it out at home and give it a whirl. I'm totally taking any sort of um, feedback as far as like if you think any of the questions don't really work for anything that you do in general or stuff like that. I'll totally be taking that sort of feedback here. There is um, there's a question, and I will. All right, so it feels like adding Fiasco style setup to the start of any game was that game inspiration for the idea. Not directly, but I mean, the fact that Fiasco does this as well, I think it's certainly fed into it. I've been playing with this idea since my GURPS days, after seeing a couple of the GMs do stuff like this. My friends Paul Tevis and who was one of the like GURPS GMs back in the day when I was, and seeing Brian Iskop do this in other systems. This sort of comes from seeing Fate turn that into mechanics back in Spirit of the Century, um, and then seeing that work in things like the way Dungeon World does bonds, or in the way Apocalypse World does history, the way Fiasco does the interconnections. Um, it's that sort of, I mean, all of those things I think point in the same field where if you can randomly create some constraints, you can surprise yourself with these sort of questions that you'll ask and sort of answers that you, as a group or even individually, will come up with. I know some people are actually looking at these as writing prompts more than group collaboration elements too. So yeah, so that is. I wouldn't say it's an inspiration, but I'm sure that my experiences from playing like dozens of Fiasco games has at least unconsciously, and I probably should now admit subconsciously, affected and sort of fed into this project. Yay, question. I'll stick around for a few more minutes if other humans have questions. Take a moment, drink my coffee, have this dead air. So, so the various sort of, and it's not a question, I'm just going to fill that air. One of the things that ended up changing in playtesting, I made this deck for like 2 nights before Metatopia, which is a fantastic play focus, or not play focus, design focus convention in New Jersey, and it's a fantastic. The people who put it together, Double Exposure people, are just amazing human beings, and their various conventions, I think, they're going to have something for everyone. If you have interest in LARPing, there's like a significant LARP element in sort of the indie story game community. There's a big contingent there. I think there's some organized play in some of their, like, what I think now they do 4 or 5 different cons a year that are differently focused. But yeah, the Double Exposure people are fantastic. And so they invited me out last year to be a guest at Metatopia to be involved in other people's play tests and things like that. And I consciously decided not to make anything to play test for the show because it was a busy time of year for me, and I wanted to be available for other people's feedback. And then 2 days before, it hit me to make these cards and just to sort of shop them around to see what people thought. And I made 24 of them, and I grabbed people and I just passed them around and sort of showed how it worked. And people were really intrigued by it and thought it was a great idea. And I learned that it was actually a horrible way to play test it because no one actually cared about the characters at that point. We were just sort of being very hypothetical. So then I sent this out to people to play test it, and the advice I got back, there were a little bit on like tweaking the questions. The original, there's another one here. I will select this question. So the question is, I hadn't even thought about these as a writing prompt. Do you think the same grid would be useful or a modified one would be better? So I think that it really depends on what you're trying to do. I think one technique would be to come up with a bunch of uh, elements that are maybe appropriate to the character you're asking questions of. You might even at that point have another grid for like PC level, whatever it is that you mean by PC versus an individual, which is of course meant to be an external character to the story. So if you're doing that as a writing prompt, you'd want to figure out how you want to handle those moments of PC. And when I write the techniques guide, that's some of the stuff that I will address. The other bit there is whether or not you even want to actually make a setting grid at all, or if you draw something, like say I draw you and PC nearly fought or did fight each other at place. How is it marked from the incident, and how are you two marked? At that point, I'm like, so I know the prompt, which means I need to know a character that's and a place that this prompt would be good for. Now let me make up these two things, as opposed to having a setting grid right away. The setting grid exists so that it's a quick mechanism for a group of characters to use, and so that the GM is put in a position to make up stuff going in. So they have as much responsibility as characters do in making sure that everything's brought to the table, assuming you're playing it with a GM. As you saw here, even though I was sort of pseudo GMing, but we need to have 3 for characters. You can use this with 2. I just like demoing it with more than 2 people. You might not actually want to make a setting grid inherently and just fill in a prompt. You think that prompt has some juice. You need to come up with the right place for it, and then maybe when you draw again, something that says place. Let me find here. You have a vested interest in place as it stands right now. What happened last time you had to support or defend it? It's let's see. Yeah, you can kind of see that now. Maybe you pick the same place. Maybe you pick another one. That's the and that would be some of the techniques in using this as a writing mechanism, as a writing exercise tool, rather than as a sort of web of backstory weaver. Because you've got very different needs when you're writing fiction, especially if you end up writing first-person fiction or just single protagonist fiction, than if you are writing multiple protagonist fiction than you are if you're playing in a multiple protagonist game. So the prompts here, and I'll explain this if there are any questions. I will then turn off this recording. So the prompts existed because I wanted ways to be able to sort of mentally differentiate. Like I need to make sure I have a good balance of stuff, and then they turned into a useful tool for quickly adjudicating whether or not it was a good card for the moment. And then, so I had 24 of these. I demoed them. Originally, the setting grid was 4 by 4, 4 items for individuals, groups, places, and events. And 4 was just too many, so I struck it down to 3. And then when I first actually played it, which was like a good couple months after I gave it to other people to try, I noticed I was starring every time I used, like I would put a little check mark or a star on the grid itself whenever I used something. That's my way of remembering, like, oh right, and I should remember that we used this either to reincorporate it or so that I can see on there that we didn't use something else, and something else is fruitful ground for new experiences and new play. Or even just like, it's the difference between a callback and unexplored territory. And so that ended up being sort of a technique that I was not expecting to come out. And since showing this to other people, I'm sort of amazed at the uses that they figured out for this. But some people talk about this as for doing LARP writing, which I'm not sure exactly the details of what they're looking using backstory cards for. But I hadn't even thought of that. I think that's awesome. So let's see. A couple of viewers. Do we have any questions, or I will totally just click on the stop broadcast thing and go back to doing things like making the techniques guide. Okay, I think I'm going to go ahead and then go back to this whole thing of writing and making fun stuff. So, thank you guys for checking it out, either live or or checking out my cough, either live or checking out after the fact. Thank you to Corey and Mark for joining in and making this particular event possible. Thank you to everybody who has been backing backstory cards, will back backstory cards, even just checking out the project. Really appreciative of all that, and I'm floored, honestly, at the response it's gotten so far, especially from like the Fate community has been amazing for that, and friends over at Fred Hicks at all over Evil Hat, and just I don't know, it's just thank you guys so much, and I'm going to go ahead and stop babbling and stop broadcast. So take care, everybody.